Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It's Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another wrestling match review. Last time when we looked at a Survivor Series match, or a match that happened in Survivor Series, we looked at Adam Cole versus Pete Dunne at Survivor Series 2019 with the NXT Championship on the line. And that was a great match, but so was this one. And because it wasn't just NXT going head to head against each other, at least in that match, but they were also competing against Raw and Smackdown as well. I'm talking about the men's 5-on-5 match. It's the first ever and the last ever, at least, men and women's 5-on-5 because there was a women's one earlier in the show, but this is the men's version this time. And yeah, so how did NXT do? How did they fare against the big boys of Raw and SmackDown? Let's find out. But as always, I'm not a professional wrestling reviewer or analyst. Just a man who enjoys a good time. I don't need to be a professional to tell you that this match was awesome. Like, if they ever or do decide to bring back NXT into the Survivor Series fold instead of just the main roster, and they decide to do brand warfare again, it looks like, and I mentioned this before with how successful it was last year, looks like they may step away from brand warfare, which I think is fine. But if they do decide to do brand warfare again, and they decide to incorporate NXT back into the mix, they're going to have quite the they got quite big shoes to fill when it comes to this year. Or like a lot of people's favorite Survivor Series from top to bottom was this year, and NXT inclusion definitely was part of it, and this match definitely was part of it as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and what I disliked about the match. Starting with what I liked. The talent pool. All 5 teams are definitely stacked. And thankfully this time around, I know I mentioned the talent pool is nice. It usually means that the match itself wasn't. But this time around, the talent pool really added to how great the match was. And the talent pool was the reason the match was as great as it was. So on Team SmackDown, who would be victorious, which isn't really a shocker considering who's on it, at least in terms of booking. And you had Roman Reigns as the team captain, Braun Strowman, King Corbin, Mustafa Ali, and Shorty G. You say what you want about some of the gimmicks, especially with like Shorty G, which that was that era. Poor Chad Gable, but everybody on this roster definitely had quite the talent with them. Meanwhile, on Team Raw, we had Team Captain Seth Rollins alongside Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and Ricochet. Another really solid team there, and it would lead to a big turn the next night on Raw, but we'll get to that. And then finally, Team NXT, that being Team Captain Tommaso Ciampa, Damian Priest, Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, and Walter. And it's crazy because 2 of these people were in War Games the night before, that being Tommaso Ciampa and Keith Lee. And 24 hours later, here they are competing. Not fully 24 hours later, but just about the next night they're competing, which is insane to think about. Also, 3 really amazing stacked teams. Just as how stacked these teams are just on paper, this makes for a great match. And to see that fall through in the execution as well, is really good because this match was chock full of action. Some surprises, some dissension as Roman Reigns pretty much cost King Corbin, caused him to get eliminated. All 3 teams had some time to shine, and ultimately it came down to Roman, Seth, and Keith Lee. Seeing the story they told with Keith Lee trying to protect Tommaso Ciampa, his only other teammate after everybody else had gotten eliminated, was pretty cool. There was some other pretty cool / fun spots, such as Matt Riddle rolling up Randy Orton. An interaction we had between Randy Orton and Tommaso Ciampa, which I guess fulfills one of my dream matches that I talked about a couple weeks ago. If you haven't already, go check out that video. But they had an interaction there. Some interactions between some old friends turned foes, turned friends, turned kind of foes. Those in Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and including them almost doing a double power bomb onto Tommaso Ciampa. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do the triple. Dean Ambrose / John Moxley was out, and I believe he was in AEW by this time. Because he, of course, had debuted at Double or Nothing, the first real AEW pay-per-view, not counting All In from the year before, but the first real AEW pay-per-view. John Moxley was there, so he was WWE. We saw, as I mentioned, dissension between King Corbin and Roman Reigns. So Roman Reigns was the team captain, but King Corbin was kind of like trying to pretty much butt in when it came to his authority. He tried to really butt in and say he was the team captain, and even though that wasn't really the case. And so Roman's Superman punched and speared Corbin, put him in his place. Keith Lee with an amazing showing in the end when it was down to just him, Reigns, and Rollins, taking out Rollins before ultimately falling to Roman Reigns. And then the show respect with between Roman Reigns and Keith Lee was really cool as well. But the other thing is all these names, especially on the NXT side, who would go on not only to the main roster, but who would make it big as well on the main roster. Out of everyone on Team NXT, everybody made it up to the main roster at some point, and I'd say, with the exception of like maybe one of these, he's that being unfortunately Keith Lee, which it is baffling considering how he was booked here and just his entire body of work in NXT. To see him not really thrive on the main roster the way he should have and the way a lot of people wanted him to, who is crazy. But otherwise, Matt Riddle, who would go on to win tag team gold alongside Randy Orton, funnily enough. Damian Priest, obviously, with the Judgment Day, Senor Money in the Bank doing well. Tommaso Ciampa reuniting DIY. It was the Miz's stooge for a while, but now is back. He went down obviously with an injury, and of course Walter, who would become Gunther, current longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, doing phenomenal stuff. But it's also interesting how many former NXT talents were here, such as people who were in NXT wrestled for the brand at some point, such as Reigns, Rollins, McIntyre, Owen, and Ricochet, Chad Gable, Corbin, and seeing them and then seeing them interact with their former brand mates, even though some of them were off the brand by the time the others got to NXT. But you get the idea. So those stories woven in, and the talent pool, you probably, honestly, when it came to the landscape of each brand at the time, and you could maybe only do maybe one or two actual replacements. It's not like some other Survivor Series teams where there's a lot more people you'd swap out and make a lot more sense. Honestly, these are some really solid assembled teams. If I did have to make a replacement, maybe replace either Damian Priest or Matt Riddle with Johnny Gargano, because of course Johnny Gargano being a major part of NXT, being the heart and soul of NXT. Or either that or give him his own match on the card, because surprisingly, as I'm looking through here, he wasn't on the card. Or not sure if he was injured at the time or not. Let me know if he was. But so those made for a really awesome match, and I can't really count it towards the overall my overall feelings of the match, but the build up to this match as well, including the NXT rolling up to the main roster, invading the main roster on the tank and everything. The homage to when DX rolled up to WCW's headquarters. That was pretty cool as well. Just the build and everything. And to see them follow through on the execution was really awesome as well. And the match had quite a bit of action. Some stars were made, some stars that should have been catapulted into bigger stars here, but some stars were made. It had some fun moments. It had some action-packed, cool moments. It's just all kinds of really great stuff. And the fact that it came down to one member from each team, and the fact that all three teams really got quite a bit of time to shine, and especially NXT, because they're the invading ones. They're the ones that the spotlight is really on this year, because this is the first and the last time that they would be involved with Survivor Series to this extent. So to see their performance here was really awesome to see. Yeah, and like I said, if you want to do NXT again and in Survivor Series, if you want to go back to brand warfare, so far them not sticking to the whole brand warfare thing is working out for them. Plus, I know a lot of people are kind of sick of the brand warfare. So, in that regard, I would say, hey, if you don't feel it necessary, I think they shouldn't go with brand warfare. But the thing is, I'm not against brand warfare, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm not against brand warfare. Just make it interesting, and still tell the stories throughout, such as like Roman costing Corbin, and here, because they're still feuding. And so continuing over that feud, don't fully abandon the storylines, or at the very least, put in there that within the story that they're putting aside their differences for one night. It's kind of stuff like that. If that makes any sense. But yeah, if they do bring back brand warfare, just make it interesting. That's my only. That's the only thing I want when it comes to that. But otherwise, them not sticking to brand... I mentioned this before. Them not sticking to brand warfare is working for them, so they're probably not going to go back to it, at least not anytime soon. If I had to find some things to dislike about the match, because there were a couple. For starters, why was Walter the first one to be eliminated? That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And really, it didn't hit me as hard because I wasn't really watching NXT at the time, so I was very unfamiliar with Walter and his body of work. Right, him being eliminated, at first didn't really hit as hard. I know a lot of people were upset about it, and the fans even chanting BS there in Chicago. Technically Rosemont, but yeah. But yeah, a lot of people were upset about it. But now that I've gone back and watched his body of work, yeah, I'm pretty upset too. How and why was he the first one eliminated? Thankfully, it wasn't a bad omen or a sign of things to come, because he has been built really strongly on the main roster. But man, the mini heart attack he gave people by having him be the first eliminated. But the other thing is how Braun Strowman was eliminated. Him being eliminated by countout. But it's triple threat rules. Those countouts shouldn't apply, unless I missed something. But yeah, Strowman was counted out. I get it. They had to get him out of the match somehow. But it was really dumb, especially with him being taken out on the outside with the Claymore from McIntyre and him not getting back to the ring. But it's triple threat rules. Why are you doing countout? It's funny because that's not even the first time Braun Strowman's been eliminated by countout at Survivor Series. He was eliminated by countout in 2016 via James Ellsworth interference. But it was really weird. Back then, at least it made sense because that was your traditional 5-on-5. But this time around, it was triple threat rules. Why are there countouts? There's supposed to be no countout. Braun Strowman got counted out. It was really weird. But you had to get him out of the match somehow. You probably didn't want somebody to necessarily pin him. And they had to make do with what they had. But it was really weird. It was a really weird choice, I feel like. And maybe the other nitpick, I get why they did it. Obviously, having Keith Lee try to overcome the odds, and it definitely paid off. Of Keith Lee overcoming the odds, at least trying to, but ultimately failing in that, really building him up as a major star, not just in a potential main roster future. We know how that turned out, obviously, but not just in that regard, but also in terms of being a sole survivor for the match and really building up his star and credibility. But this isn't really a con. It's more so kind of like something I probably would have liked to see maybe is have it finish off with all three team captains, Roman, Seth, and Tommaso Ciampa. But nevertheless, still a really tremendous match and a really awesome match. Definitely go check it out, as well as this entire Survivor Series. Is I thought about watching the whole Survivor Series, but I didn't really feel like re-watching that, especially because, as kind of spoiler, there is an entire Survivor Series I'm going to be watching later on this month, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts on the match and my review. Did you like to select the match? Did you like to select my review of the match? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.